Tell me about when you were injured. What was going on leading up to that?
Just the shells coming in, and I don't really remember getting hit, but I got hit right here in the right leg, and the corpsman was there, and I just later on felt sharp pain. You know, when when the adrenaline is flowing, a lot of things can happen to you, and you don't realize it. And my adrenaline was flowing when that little shell piece hit my leg, and there's no scar or anything else. But I was hit, and he came up and checked it out, and put a little bandage on it, and that was it.
And did you ever find that 75 millimeter cannon?
No, that wasn't our job. I guess the artillery finally got rid of it, and the Japanese pulled it back in and left it. So many things happened that, you know, you'd be in one place one time, and somebody else would come up and take over, and you'd go somewhere else. Our corpsman, and you get to know your corpsman just like you get to know the guy next to you. The corpsman could take care of you. The corpsman was with you all the time. If anybody was hurt, you'd holler corpsman, and he responded. PBY, and a PBY is a two-engine airplane that lands on water. The Navy had a lot of them, and one came in over the bay and came in to land, and somebody commented to the corpsman, "There's a PBY out there," and the corpsman said, "That's my relief." So it wasn't very long, maybe 2 or 3 hours, till here comes this corpsman up the hill. They shake hands, our corpsman leaves, and your corpsman's there. 18 months of the day, that's as long as they'd leave them, the corpsman in the Navy. Why they chose 18 months, I don't know. But the next corpsman was just as good as the first one, and they were well trained in their medical field, well trained.
What was that like to see him leave right in the middle of the
It
battle?
was like a relief for him, and a sense that somebody somewhere was really keeping tabs on what they were supposed to do for him. And it gave you the idea that, of course, when your time comes, you'll be taken care of too.
How long were you expected to be in combat? Is there a like that? Was there a timeline like that, like he had?
No, there was no time. And I'm going to go back now just a little bit. Guadalcanal was almost given up at one time. I use the term almost given up, not necessarily by the Navy, not necessarily by the Marines, but by the people here in the United States. They thought that Guadalcanal was a loss. And in fact, some of the people, when they came home and said they'd been on Guadalcanal, they were told that, oh, we thought that everybody on Guadalcanal had got lost and, you know, had been pushed out of there, put in prison. And that's what the rumors brought around. But of course it wasn't that way. Because the Navy, once they landed you, they had to pull away. They couldn't afford to stay there in that bay with the Japanese artillery firing on the ships. And once the big cruisers and battleships and things of the Japanese fleet started coming in, the troop transports, which had very small amounts of firepower, couldn't afford to sit there and be blown out of the water. So they would pull away as far as they could and then come back when they could. But up on Peleliu there, they stayed pretty well in the bay. There wasn't any requirement to pull out. And the kamikazes were not active at that time. You know that term, kamikazes? So we had no problem with them. And that's one thing that made Okinawa such a terrible situation. Coming back to Peleliu itself, the 81st Wildcat Division, which is a Georgia division, hit an island near us, and I got that name on the tip of my tongue. Anyhow, it wasn't far away, and when they secured their island, they came over and helped us some after we were hit so badly. And Mary had to go to hospital in Fayetteville area the other day, Fayette Community Hospital, And I don't meet many strangers. And I was sitting in the waiting room there, and there was quite a few people there. And I know this might be deviating from what you're looking for, but it's part of the life and part of the war in the Pacific. And I saw this man sitting over there, and he was waiting, and he was fidgeting with his papers and putting them down and picking them back up. And I said, well, I told Mary, I'm just going over to talk with that guy. Something's wrong somewhere. And so I went over and I started talking to him, and I said, what's the matter? I said, he said, well, I just been waiting for some period of time, and I'm tired of waiting. And I said, were you in the service? And he said, yes. And we got to talking, and he was in the 81st Wildcat Division. And he was one of the people that came over and gave us a hand. So we had a pretty good reunion. And then other people in there started looking at us talking, and you could see their ears open up a little bit. And I started asking other people. And I guess there was 10 or 12 people in there, and the biggest part of them had either been in the service, had people in the service, or knew somebody that'd been. So we had a gay little reunion there, and got through talking, and it was time for Mary to go up, and I started to get up and leave, and this lady said, wait a minute, you didn't ask me about my service.